Welcome to episode 8 of Agency Intensive. I'm Richard Hill, your host. Now, in this episode, I speak with Kelly Evans, Chief Executive of Social Change, a local agency to me that I've admired for many years, and I knew I had to get Kelly on the show. We chat niching down and finding your passion and the biggest shift in human behaviour that Kelly is seriously leaning into right now. As one of the first BCORPs in the UK agency space, Kelly steps us through the process and how it impacted the agency. Why Kelly sleeps pretty well at night, this you need to listen to. We go deep on utilisation rates and how this was a real turning point for Kelly. And we chat the mystical 100k per head, the magic number in agency land, and how does Kelly achieve it? And so much more in this one. Now, do me one favour, hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are listening to this podcast. So you're always the first to know when a new episode is released. Now, let's head over to this fantastic episode. Hey, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm really well. Well, I hope you haven't had too much of a long journey to get here.
No, very, very short.
So Kelly's agency is literally around the corner from us, isn't it? Pretty much, I think.
I think we're kind of on the same street.
Yeah. So I would say you're probably out of the 210 people we've had on our two podcasts, you are definitely the person that is the nearest. Yeah. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome to Agency Intensive. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of agency life, I think it'd be great for you to introduce yourself and tell the listeners how you got into the world of agencies.
Yeah. So my name's Kelly Evans and I run an agency called Social Change. It's a behaviour change agency, which when you say that to people, they say, well, what is that?
Yeah.
And basically we're an agency that help our clients to influence human behaviour. And pretty much everything we do is about human behaviour. So how can we influence it? How can we change it? So we help them solve their problems and their challenges using the power of behavioural science.
So I would say very unique. Very unique.
Niche.
Very unique, very niche, which I love. So why behavioural science?
Well, it goes back a long time. I started the agency 14 years ago, but before that I was inside a government and I was one of only a sort of few people that was testing and looking at how we could use behavioural theory and behavioural science to basically get people to eat more healthy, pay their taxes and do all the right things. So, I started inside of government, and then in 2010, the recession hit. I don't know if you're as old as me, but if
I remember it
that.
very well, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I was made redundant, and I thought, well, what do I do now? And behavioural science was something that was just really starting to take off, and there was so few people doing it that I thought, I'm going to give this a try, and I'm going to set up my own kind of agency consultancy.
Yeah,
and that's what I did.
So how did you get that first client or two then? So you've literally full-time employment. Yeah. Obviously recession, a lot of challenges out there with government and funding and obviously everything. You know.
Yeah.
So right, I'm going to do my own thing, which is a big decision to make. You know, how did you get those first sort of customer or two in that first year or so?
Yeah, well, that's the thing about government. They'll sack lots of people and then they'll work out that they still need the work doing.
Yeah.
So they start contracting and commissioning people. Yeah, and pay more for it. So I kind of really commissioned myself back into government and the public sector.
Yeah.
And again, because there was so few of us doing it, they still needed that expertise. And we were really starting to show some benefits of using behavioural science on lots of different societal problems that pretty much, you know, people were knocking on the door. It was great for me.
So quite a unique offering at that time. Still is, I would say.
I would say it is still a unique offering. We are definitely one of the leading behaviour change agencies in the UK now. There are a few more out there, and behavioural science is increasingly being used more and more than ever before. So, yeah, it's a field that's really expanding and people's knowledge of it is increasing.
So for the agency owners that are listening, that are probably wondering what exactly is it you do, you know, so we're obviously working with companies, obviously you talk about the council and the government or the government, but what are some sort of typical projects that you'll work on now? Yeah,
so we work in the health related behaviour change space. So we would work with the NHS, for example. Their problem is they can't get people to do screening for cancer, for diabetes. So we would look at that problem. We would really analyse it. We have a team of behavioural scientists and researchers who would look at what are the barriers And we would basically create and test interventions to get people to the screening.
Yeah.
So that could be a campaign, it could be service redesign, anything like that. We're working with a major high street bank at the moment. Fraud is massive. People are being scammed.
Yeah.
How do we reduce scams? So we're looking at all of these problems that, you know, businesses and the public sector have, and how behavioural science can solve some of those problems.
So is it a lot about making people aware of these issues, if you like, or like you mentioned a couple of things there about being scammed, about different health things. So it's you doing research for your clients, or more so doing campaigns to make people more aware that they should be more careful about getting scammed. They should be going to the doctors to be checked for this, that, and the other, or is it a bit of both?
It's a bit of both.
Yeah.
So it always starts with understanding people. And actually, I think a lot of people jump to the idea, the intervention, the creative, without fully understanding people and what the issue is. So we have a small team of researchers and scientists that would look at that. And then we would use those insights to create the ideas, the creative. And sometimes it's a campaign, and we use our marketing expertise to do that. So we've done a lot of TV ads or, public sector awareness campaigns. But sometimes it is about changing the service. You know, if we're struggling to get people to the dentist, we don't sometimes need more adverts to tell us to go to the dentist every 6 months. Maybe we just need to change the receptionist, who's a bit of a moody person, who stops you wanting to go to the dentist when you go in.
That's very polite. A moody person.
Moody person. Sometimes it's about, more than just the campaign. And we apply a test, learn, adapt approach. So we're constantly testing things. And you'll know in your world as well, A/B split testing, what message is going to work, what colours work better, that kind of thing. So we're doing all of that on a sort of day-to-day basis.
So what would you say is the biggest shift you're seeing at the moment with sort of human behaviour? What are you witnessing now?
It's a good question, actually. I think we're constantly evolving. But COVID was a moment in time that I think did shift behaviour. But at the same time, it also didn't. So I remember doing a webinar at the start of the COVID pandemic, and I basically told everyone, don't worry, everybody, because we will all revert back to our old habits and our behaviours. And we pretty much did. So as individuals, we did. There was one change that I've definitely seen since then, and that is that our approach and our attitude to work. And that's what's really shifted. Yeah. But if you think about it, the COVID pandemic was a wake-up call for all of us around our health and our well-being. Yeah. Yet what is now, where we are now, there is no change. In fact, if anything, our health and well-being is getting worse since the pandemic. So, there's all sorts of shifts happening, but actually, largely, we are the same as what we were before the pandemic. We are now. Yeah.
So have you done a lot around sort of, obviously there's been quite a shift in where we work. We talked about it before we hit record. Have you done work around that? The sort of, I think obviously everyone worked from home. Then we sort of eased back. Some firms eased back to the office, and then the last couple of years more and more easing back to the office. But then some firms like, right, we're going back full time, 5 days a week to the office. And I think, I don't think that's ever going to be a thing anymore. Are you sort of seeing what are you seeing on that side of things?
Yeah, I think now that we're a few years down the road, and as someone who comes from the research area, I've looked at this, and my team have looked at this, both for our clients, but also kind of reflecting on our own experience of running an agency. And one thing that's really sort of come out in the studies is that actually working fully remote from home is actually not very good for our mental health and also our physical health, unless you're a highly motivated individual in terms of looking after your health and well-being. So a fully remote environment is actually not great, particularly for younger generations. They need to be around people, they need to learn from other people around them. They need to be in that social environment. And all of the studies say that now. And I've seen that in my own team as well. I gave them the option, like everyone else, I think, would you like to work fully remote? And most of them didn't. And it surprised me at the time.
Surprised me as well. Well, I've had people, I want to come in more. It's like, okay, you can come in more if you want to come in more. So it's like an open door policy here, which I think you've got a similar vibe, yeah.
A hybrid sort of model does seem to be the one that's working the most.
Some people want to do a couple of days, some people want to do 5, some want to do 4, some want to do 3, a couple of days or 3 where, it's maybe more of a given that more people are in, so there's more collaboration on those days. And I think I could never work from home every day.
No.
Although I love having that odd day, absolutely, that quiet time, but been at home all the time, I love being in the office, to be fair, Slight change of direction then, Kelly. So we're going to talk about B Corp. Now, I know you were, I believe, the first in Lincolnshire and one of the first in the country, I think, to go through the B Corp process. Sort of step us through that process. I think, a lot of agencies you see becoming B Corps for different reasons. And I think, it's quite probably potentially, if you've not looked at it, obviously it's quite potentially an overwhelming process. Maybe step us through that process of becoming a B Corp, why you decided to do that and the process.
Yeah, of course. So, B Corp is something I am very passionate about. We certified nearly 3 years ago. We were, as you said, the first in Lincoln, and we were in the first 500 companies in the UK. And I think now we're up to 3,000 and there are about 1 million businesses going through the process at the moment. So this is a real growing movement. Yeah. And, for those who haven't heard of B Corp before, it's about balancing people, planet and profit and considering all of those in equal measure. And as a business, when I set it up, when I came out of government and I set the business up, I probably did what a lot of people do, and that is go for the business books, go onto Amazon, buy 10 business books. But most of them were very much about how to get rich quick, how to make, $1 million overnight. It's all about making money. And I guess if that is your motivator, fine, but it wasn't mine. Yeah. We'd just come out of this awful recession, or we're still going through it, actually, where that pursuit of profit at all costs literally led to our economic downturn. Yeah. So I thought there must be a better way of doing this. So I started seeking out different books, different business models, different ways to do business. And although it wasn't called B Corp at the time, pretty much people had been running good, socially, economic, responsible businesses for some time. And it
caring about what they're doing with their people and the environment.
Yeah. I grew up in Brighton, and Anita Roddick, who obviously everyone knows from the Body Shop, had her big business down in Littlehampton just outside. And as a 15-year-old, I would go down to the Body Shop and see the business, how it was run. And I was always inspired by her. Yeah. And the first Body Shop was in Brighton. So I always had that idea that business could be done differently, and I wanted to do it differently. Yeah. I sought out to do business that way. And a few years later, I looked at B Corp and I was like, well, we're doing all of that. Do we actually need the badge? Yeah. And then it got to the COVID pandemic, and I'm in my bedroom for 20 hours a day.
Bit of time.
A bit of time on my hands. And I thought, let's go for this. And actually, it was a really good thing, because there's me thinking I'm doing all the right things. Yeah. This was an opportunity to hold a mirror up to the business and say, am I doing all the right things? And, there were a few things that came up when I was like, oh, maybe I could do more of that, or I'm not doing so good in that area. Yeah, it makes you really sort of think about it. Yeah. But because, as I said, we were doing already good things, and the work that we do is naturally good. Yeah.
I guess it really aligns with the work that you're doing, doesn't it? Obviously, you're, investigating and researching and helping and developing maybe change ultimately, and which is very, and doing the right thing and educating people about doing things that are going to help them, which really sits well with a bit. So it really aligns, doesn't it, with what your agency specifically?
Yeah, it does. And the work that we were doing really good. And I really wanted to look at how, we treat people and what we do for people, and then more widely now, the planet. Yeah. And this is a big area. We know climate change is here, and we need to do something about it. And so we're increasingly now working in the space where we're helping our clients to get to net zero and help change human behaviour, because 62% of all of the actions that we need to take to combat climate change is human behaviour related.
Yeah.
You know, we've got to stop doing stuff that we've always liked doing, and we've got to start doing some other things.
Yeah.
And that's a real hard sell.
Isn't it? So the process, how long did it take you to sort of do the process to become a B Corp then?
Well, actually, not too long. The process itself...
Because you had 20 hours a day.
Yeah. I was locked up in the bedroom for hours. When people ask me this, I would say probably 200 hours was spent on going through this process. The longest part was the assessment. So once you'd press the button and you thought you'd done all the work...
Yeah. You're then back and forth. Oh, we need to prove that you need the proof, don't you? Obviously, you say, yes, we do this. Yep, we do this, we do this, we do this. Oh, not sure, research. But ultimately, you fill it in and you've sort of, I've done it. No, you haven't. You've now got to document the process. That took a lot more time than the actual filling in of the initial application.
Yeah, it did.
So from the initial application to then getting the seal of approval, how long do you think that was roughly?
That took 9 months.
9 months
after pressing the button.
Yeah. And that's just a lot of checking and collating information and creating, even documenting things that we do that thing, but we don't necessarily have a written document that says this is how we do that thing. Yeah. So clearly it's impacted your business. For those agencies that are thinking about maybe going on the B Corp journey, what would you say to those guys?
I would say go for it. You know, start now. Go onto the website, platform that's free. Start filling out the assessment. Most businesses are sort of operating at a level where they can't get past 50 to 55, and you have to have 80 points basically. Yeah. We managed to get to over 100 without having to make many changes. But as I said, we were kind of doing good in the first place. Yeah. But I think for agencies, I think it's a lot easier than those that are selling products. Yeah,
you haven't got all the warehouse piece and a lot of that. What's the word I'm looking for? You're buying product from, various different countries, different places, and you maybe don't know. So you can't actually answer the questions about the source of products, and there's a lot more. Whereas if it's an office-based business, I guess this is quite a lot easier. Yeah, we've pressed the button.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, we pressed the button about February time, but then the time it takes to then complete and we scored 94, I think it was, and that rings a bell. But then the documentation, now we're on. So we have a target at the end of the year, but obviously it's not in our hands when it happens, but. Yeah, I think we might be.
I'm sure you'll do fine.
I think we'll be a little bit over, but so obviously running. We haven't spoken many times, Kelly, but I've always admired your agency from afar. For a long time. I think we've been going a similar time. I was looking on LinkedIn, and I think you've got 3 or 4 months. You've got your 15th birthday coming up, so that's a heck of a distance in any business, but particularly in the agency world. 15 years, obviously, you've carved a real niche in the agency world, and got known as a thought leader in the space. And, I see you talking at a lot of different events, and very passionate about what you do. But I know over 15 years, it won't have all been plain sailing. No. What would you say to those guys that, I think particularly right now, it's maybe quite challenging for a lot of agencies. What are some of the things you do when things are a bit tough?
It's quite hard. If I think about that entire journey, started in a recession. Yeah. A few years down the road, we're still in austerity. A few years down the road, Brexit. Another few years down the road, COVID. Here we are, cost of living crisis, war in Russia and Ukraine. There's always things happening outside in the external environment. And my sort of mantra has always been to kind of accept that these things occur and happen and keep hopeful and optimistic, but also, just accept that these things are happening around us. And but trying to grow a business during those times, there is no such thing as a straight line up, is there, when you're starting and growing a business? It is a roller coaster. Everyone knows your ups and downs and all over the place. But in that whole time, there's only been 1 year where I haven't made a profit. And that is because I basically put in place a framework right from the beginning of making sure, you know your numbers, you know what's in your pipeline, you're making decisions fast. So you're not making, poor decisions in the times when things are hard. So
over the years, you've sort of developed your framework, and I think you obviously what we're saying is, there'll always be something, whether that's a big world event, but if you've got a nice cushion, or you've got a, when things are maybe really bad out, turn the TV on, it's like the world's ended. That's most weeks, to be fair. But the reality is, there's tough times come, tough times go, and being able to be resilient as an agency owner. But obviously, you've built into your business over the years different processes, different frameworks, adapting various things you've learned and gone, I'm not doing that, but that's a load of rubbish. And, I know we've had a few chats about sort of the commercial side, and I think that would be really good to share and talk about the sort of some of the key things, that's enabled you to have a real strong sort of commercial side of the business, the financials, that when things do get a bit tough, and maybe, we maybe had a month where we broke even or whatever, but the reality is if you've got a good set of numbers behind that.
So I don't know about you, Richard, and how you were sort of brought up, but I think some of the way that I was brought up has sort of been instilled into me growing this business. I don't come from a background of people who run businesses. To be quite honest, when I first started and I jumped out of government and straight into running one, I hadn't a clue. I wasn't running, I didn't have spreadsheets all over the place with all the numbers and things. It was a steep learning curve, to be honest. But you start small and you learn on the journey, I guess. But one of the things I suppose is instilled into me just from how I was brought up is, debt's not very good. So I always kind of was quite risk averse, if I'm quite honest with you. So, over the years, what I would do was build reserve in the business so that when those bad times came, I could flow through them in a way that felt less stressful than, if I didn't have the cash there to cover and get us through those periods. So I would say I'm quite a sensible business owner. I mean, I 100% own the business. It's very profitable. The reserves are there for those tough times.
Do you work on having a minimum of so many months' expenses in reserves? Do you have I want to have at least a year's worth, 6 months? I know people talk about 6 months, and if you're easy maths, you've got 100 grand a month in expenses, you got 600k in the bank. A lot of people talk about those sort of, those are the numbers that are in your head.
So I like to have kind of, if we took no sales tomorrow, no revenue came in tomorrow, the business could still run for probably about a year, which is a nice, comfortable place to be. And I've realised that actually I quite like safety. And I think it's again, as I said, the way maybe I've been brought up, but also the 1 year that we didn't make a profit was very stressful. And, I just don't want to have to go through that time and time again. I want to feel quite safe in the numbers and be able to sleep at night.
Yeah. Oh, you said the sleep at night thing. Now, I was going to ask you, but I'm going to save it. I'm going to save that one about what keeps you up at night. But so just going back for the listeners then, I think it's such a key thing. I've run my own business for sort of nearly 30 years, and that piece around just being sensible, if you want to call it being sensible, but ultimately saving, because there will be the odd bad month, maybe several, and if you have a month where you lose money and things are so tight that 1 month could tip you over the edge. When you think about it as a business, it's not a great place to be. It's not a nice place to be. But if you've got, even 3 months worth of cash sitting in the business, and in an agency world, it's unlikely that you're going to lose all your business overnight, is it? So, if you've got even a couple of months money, which could be quite a few, we talk a lot about sort of 7-figure agency plus. So in theory, you're doing at least 100 grand a month if you're listening to this podcast or you're aspiring to do that. So if you've got a couple of 100 grand, or maybe less, maybe 150k in the bank. But if you've only got 10k in the bank, you're not going to sleep very well at night, are you? Knowing that your salaries are due in, whatever it may be, sitting here with salaries are due on Monday. So, we're a few days away from, I'm sure, both of us having to make quite a large payment, So, but if you've only got X amount in the bank, but obviously if you've got 12 months worth of funds in the bank, you're not really going to be waking up every day checking the bank, because, that little bit of difference a day or a week or even a month makes isn't really going to make any difference to this number. So if you're not doing that, you need to start putting it away. Do you do any sort of where a lot of people, we've talked about like profit first, having different bank accounts where you have different amounts of, like a percentage goes into different accounts, like your tax, your VAT, your cash. Do you do things like that where you have percentages each month going in or an amount going in?
I have an account for the reserves, so the money goes into the reserve account and it builds up there. But, just the thing that you said there about if you are somebody listening and you are getting up every day and you are checking your bank account, I'm telling you now, something's not right, something's wrong, and you need to start doing things differently, because that is not a great place to be. No. And I do remember, about a decade ago, one Christmas where, I'm sure you get it, where clients, they don't pay within the 30-day terms. You could be waiting 3 to 6 months sometimes for payment. And I remember one Christmas having to pay my staff and then going home and not having money for myself because I didn't have enough to pay myself. Yeah. And again, these were these moments in time that were like a wake-up call. Right, well, what do we need to do differently now?
I've been there. Yeah. Yeah, it's not a nice place, is it? No. Not a nice place. So, and the other thing when you said about like cash reserves in a savings, the interest rates are actually quite good now as well, aren't they? So after a few months or a year goes by, you think actually the interest on the reserves, fast forward from probably 3 years ago, was pretty shit. Now it's like pretty good, yeah?
Yeah, very good.
So it also makes sense to put that reserve in the right account, not just sitting it in your current account and,
Absolutely.
So we've covered off a bit around the finance. But and obviously it sounds like the cash reserves are good, so good for you. But what keeps you up at night, Kelly? There must be, if you were to lie in bed at night and maybe there's a couple of things on your mind, what are usually those things that are spinning around your head?
Do you know, sometimes it's quite mundane, it's quite boring stuff. One of the reasons we do so well is we do really look after our clients, and I know everybody says that, and really want quality outputs for our clients. And we have things like we want to get back to people the same day, and for me it's, did that person email that person back today, or did we quality check that report before it went out? There's small things, and I can't believe I still have those thoughts because I'm pretty much not operationally in the business anymore. It's someone else's responsibility, but I care a lot about it that I still wake up in the night and think, I must check with that person tomorrow whether they spoke to, I don't know, Wendy or Tim or someone. So they're the strange things that kind of keep me up at night. The bigger things, which I know keep a lot of people up night, are you able to pay people? The debts that might be spiraling and so on, they're not there because of what I've done to set the business up in a way that is sustainable.
So what is the biggest challenge right now then? So you're sleeping quite well by the sound of it. There's a few, did XYZ send that email? A few little niggly bits, but what are maybe, if we were to go a bit deeper, what are maybe some of the challenges right now sitting here? We've just come out of the summer. A few weeks ago now, what are maybe a challenge or two? I think it's, I like to talk about this because the reality is, it sounds like, I know you've got a phenomenal business. I really, like I say, been sort of watching your journey for a long while as well. And I really admire what you're doing, but there must be a challenge or two.
There's always challenges. Yeah. So, I think one of the biggest challenges we have, and I know a lot of people have, is pipeline.
Yeah.
We work a lot on trying to fill the hopper and get that pipeline going. We've got lots of proposals out. We've got lots of interest. And one of the things that a lot of people are talking about is putting in a lot of work to really mature that pipeline and have all those proposals ready and hopefully converting them. But clients ghosting you and not getting back to you.
So annoying.
It's so annoying.
Just tell me no.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, ideally. But
yeah, so we can move on. I haven't got someone emailing every other week and, disturbing you. If we're not the right fit, we're not the right fit. It's absolutely fine. So I think pipeline is always...
So have you got any, 15 years on doing this? Any sort of, little secrets of just tipping people over the line, or at least getting a decision? Because I think there's nothing more annoying. It's the one I can tell. You've poked the pipeline, and what's happening with this? What's happening with this? Well, they said, no, what? That was 3 weeks ago. What's that?
Well, one of the things we've experienced, or we do experience, which always surprises us, and I don't know why after 15 years, but, I could have put a proposal in 15 months ago and suddenly it comes to us 15 months later.
Yeah. I guess if you're doing a lot of government work, I guess it's quite a cycle of time of year and budgets and end of year. And do you find that quite a lot?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we do a lot of tenders because of public sector. But, even with businesses and so on, we have to maybe wait. I would say on average, we could wait 6 to 9 months for something to materialise. Yeah. So with that in mind, we're trying to build a pipeline 6 to 9, 12 months.
That's quite a long pipeline, isn't it? I would say ours is not that long, not as long as that, but that's quite long. But that's the type of work you're doing, isn't it? Specifically. So let's have a little look more at the billing, if this is okay. Tell me if it's not. But I'm intrigued to know, with the type of work you do, is it quite project based? So it's maybe 2 or 3, 4 months, ring fenced amount of money, and then you're out. Or do you have quite a lot of retainer work as well? It's quite a unique proposition, yours, isn't it?
Yeah, so about 80% of our work is project-based. Yeah. And we've got about 20% that's retainer. Yeah. So the pipeline's really important for us because we need to have those projects in the pipeline to maintain the framework that we have to build that security, I guess. Hence why I like to put, have those reserves there for those times that are more down than up. We tend to do a lot of our business in the last 2 quarters of the financial year. The first 2 are not so lucrative. But again, what we're trying to do is build up our pipeline so that we've got work happening in the first 2 quarters to cover that period. So, I think it's quite a difficult job to do. So billing wise, we bill at milestones. We pretty adaptable and flexible. We can do 3 payments throughout a project,
up front, in the middle, when it's finished, or towards the end. A bit like we talk a lot about development and web dev. That's quite often like that, isn't it? Yes. So we've covered a lot of ground, Kelly. Now, something, when we last spoke was probably 6 months ago, and we bumped into each other in London, didn't we? We're literally about 400 yards from each other, and then we got to London, and there was about 3 or 4 agency owners, about us and a couple of other guys from Lincoln. And there was a guy on stage, and he was talking about his business, and there's a sort of a magic number in the industry. When we talk about running an agency, let's make the math simple. We've got 20 people in an agency. The number that most agency owners should be tracking, and if you're not, you need this number. What is your turnover per head within that agency? And the guy on the stage, I think, said 55, 60K, and I think you nearly fell off your chair. And I was like, I didn't think that was that bad. And I think you might have gone, well, we're never 100. And I was like, wow, that's insane. And it is like the magic number. It's the magic number. We're not at that number. I want to be at that number, obviously. But 100K per head is what we're talking about. So, with a headcount of 8, potentially you could be doing £1 million a year turnover. And obviously turnover is one thing. Obviously that's, as we touched on, profits, what it's all about, and what we're keeping. But talk to me about that sort of 100K ahead, the sort of things you've done to be able to get to that, close to that, exceed that. You don't have to give us the exact number. But I think that's just such an important part of running an agency. It's so easy to hire and spend and get carried away with the head. Oh, I've got this many people. I've been guilty of it for a while. And I'm like, we need to stop. We need to build the revenues and fill the gaps. But obviously, closer you can get to that sort of number, the reality is you should be running a very successful, very profitable agency, which means you sleep quite well at night.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about that. I think that I've always worked to that number, and how I get there is that I know lots of other numbers as well. So the first one is about people and really understanding your utilisation rate.
Yeah.
So, the sweet spot people talk about now is about 65%. So 65% of your staff members' time is a billable. If you're doing it at 80%, then you're probably running people into the ground. Yep. So 65% is a nice number to be at. So first of all, it is about understanding that utilisation rate. The second is, for me, there has to be a business case to bring on another person into the agency.
Yeah.
Basically, if people's utilisation rate is going above 65, 70, it's building a case as to whether to bring sommone new into the agency.
So 2 or 3 people are getting to 75, you're getting close to, maybe they're getting a bit burnt out, or, getting to a point where there might be a challenge there. But ultimately, you're building a case there to then, we're nearly ready for another person. Another month, that just keeps moving a little bit more. We'll be able to hire, start advertising or putting the feelers out. Obviously, that process can take 3-4 months.
Yeah, and it has to be a consistent thing, because the work is coming in and it's there. I think what tends to happen in agencies, and don't get me wrong, I've been here and I've done this, and this is what's happened to me. Someone comes in and they're quite stressed, and we need another person, this project's come in and we can't do this, and we need this person, and we need a new marketing, and we need everything. I literally can sit down with people now and say, we don't need another person. Yeah. Let's look at this in a bit more detail. So really understanding that. And as a result of that, I've kept my team, I've got a very core team of people which work to around that £100,000 mark in terms of the work that's allocated to them. It's around that. And then if there's any more that come in, then we add to the workforce.
So let's just go back a step. So obviously you're talking about 65% billable time. Is that right? Time?
Yeah.
But you must have people in the team that are not doing billable work, or do you?
Yeah, no, that's right.
Like your marketing, your sales, yourself.
Yes. Yeah, we do. Yeah. So what we look at. So we look at the utilisation rate.
I'm not saying you don't do any work.
I wish I did less, but we look at the utilisation rate for each person, but then we look at them as part of a team, and we have 3 teams within our agency. Yeah. So we will look at the team output and utilisation, and then of course the people that are unbillable, so sales and our director, and myself and others, we are not counted within that. So we have to obviously make sure that we can cover those costs as well on top of that. And we sort of flex between sort of 10 and 16 people every year, but we keep the core. We have a core team, and then sort of add on or bring in people as and when we need it. So we're very flexible.
So when you maybe step up to 16, but you might know that might be a temporary, because there's a big project or 3 coming. Are you taking people on contracts then maybe, or no, it's understood that it's a 12-month thing, a 6-month thing, but obviously we may keep you on if X, Y, Z, because obviously if you're flexing in and out of 10 and 16, is that?
Yeah, that's right. But in the average person that stays within a workplace now, is about 16 months anyway. And in agency world, that's even less. It's about just over a year now. Yeah. That's the average. That's crazy, right? Because I think we want people to stay, but actually the reality is they don't. Yeah. So I'm less worried about, I'm bringing someone in, can I give them a job for life? Because it's just not the way the world is now. But, if we know we've got projects, and the value of that is going to be 1.6 million, that's 16 staff are going to be required in order to deliver that. So that's how we work. If it's down that year and, the pipeline and what we've got contracted is, 1 million, then we know we're keeping our core 10. Yeah. And then I've got the reserves in the back. So when things are a little bit less than that, as they were a couple of years ago after COVID, then, we can cover that until we get ourselves back again.
So are those core 10, are they very aware of their target of this 100K per month?
So what we do is we don't really focus a lot on the numbers. The numbers are very open and transparent with the team. But what I've found certainly over the last couple of years, that people start to worry when you talk about numbers a little bit. Yeah. So we prefer to talk percentages. So we'll say, right, we've met 75% of our pipeline this year, and we've got another 50% in there.
Do you talk to them about their 65% billable, that they know they've got to hit this 65%, or obviously they'll vary a little bit on person, but they...
So I've now put in place what I call a hot team, heads of team, hot. So we've got 3 people that head up each of the teams, and I meet with them monthly and present the data to them and tell them, we look at what happened last month and what the utilisation rate we predicted and what it actually was. And then we look at what we've got forecasted for this next month and even beyond that. And it really helps us to understand where some of those crunch points are going to be. So if I know that I've got, 4 animations in the studio in the next 3 weeks, that's going to put a lot of pressure on the studio. So we can start to plan what we're going to do in that instance, for example. Or I've got a whole team, as I did throughout August, that literally had very little to do. And I was like, right, okay, we got to create content. We got to do other stuff. So you're starting to work that into their schedule.
Shift some capacity, maybe internally for a month while, something's coming to the following month after. Fascinating, Kelly. I feel like I've learned a lot there. So thank you for sharing. Last couple of questions. So I think fascinating, running a very, very lean agency. I think those that are with us now listening, I would say rewind, go back, look at the numbers, be very aware of that utilisation rate, because I think this is where most people go wrong. It's when things are good, they're great, but the reality of life and running a business is that things are going to have a tricky time, and if you haven't got the costs and you haven't got that buffer in the background, that's where things can very, very quickly. You see it all the time with agencies. So in so many agencies, I keep an eye on agencies' head count. It's not for no real I'm just I guess a bit of a nerd when it comes to just keeping an eye on a few agencies, just a benchmark really. And I don't sort of we do our own thing, but I saw a lot of agencies through COVID go from 40 to 100 people, and then they're back down to 40 now. So that journey must have been quite. There's such ups and downs with that, navigating that amount of movement. And I imagine, behind the scenes, there'll been a lot of drama. So it's just nice to sleep well at night, I think. I'm a big fan of that. I even bought a new bed the other week, but that's a different topic.
Don't you think headcount's a funny one, though? Because I think it can give the wrong impression of how successful an agency is. Yeah. Because you could have 20 people, but it's 25 grand per person that you're earning. Yeah. And technically that's not going to work a long time. Yeah. So I think headcount is definitely one not to see, although they must be growing because they've got more people. Yeah. And one thing I've definitely learned over the last few years is that people is not the way to growth. Yeah. I certainly had more people, but we are doing better now with less. Yeah. So investing in skills, high quality people, and investing in them rather than stretching ourselves too thin.
So asking yourself, how are you going to go from 65 grand a head to 85 grand a head, probably with no extra costs, maybe a few little costs in the background, but an extra 20k per head, 20 people or even 10 people, you can make yourself another 200, 300, 400 grand a year with no extra people. That is the trick, isn't it? Which is obviously that's the journey you've no doubt over.
That is the journey
you've been on and refining and very specific offer to a very specific demographic that my understanding is pays very well, and they pay the bill because you're dealing with certain people, so you've got different and less challenges with getting paid. You've got quite a chunky-ish offer. It's not a couple of grand a month. It's a nice chunky offer. It's very niche, all the things that we talk about. And then ultimately you're getting paid well, but you're doing a very specific job. You're absolute goddamn experts at that thing. It's like if somebody out there is thinking of doing, wants a social change project, behavioural change, project. There's not many people do, It's you guys. It's just like tick, 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 tick. Take note, guys. Kelly knows what she's doing.
Yeah. Well, look, I met an agency owner for lunch a couple of months ago, and he turns over about 10 million, and it sounds impressive, really impressive. But when we got real down to the detail, for the last 5 years, probably been making a couple of grand profit, and the stress that causes that agency owner.
Like as in £2,000?
Yeah, a couple of £1,000 profit for the last few years.
10 million turnover.
A 10 million turnover. And that's someone that isn't sleeping at night.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of debt also in that business as well.
Yeah.
So I think we can sometimes be a little bit turned on by the turnover number.
The headcount. And,
and that kind of thing. And actually, that's what I've realised is just not what we should be looking for when we're looking to successful businesses.
Agreed. So what is on the roadmap for the company over the next 12 months?
Yeah, I think it's more of the same, and developing into different areas. So taking the behavioural science and seeing how we can use it in a lot more places, in different markets and in different types of businesses. I think we're going to be really busy over the next sort of 6 years around environment, climate change, net zero, because we've all got to make those changes. And we're also developing our Changemaker Academy, so really starting to help teach and help people to learn more about how to use behavioural science, but for a good, because we don't want people using it. That's going to be like a subscription that the firms pay for on a monthly basis type thing. Yeah, at the moment we've got a good 10,000 people accessing our Changemaker Academy resources on our website, but we're sort of thinking, well, how we could possibly monetize this and do a few more courses and work with our team of experts on that.
Interesting. Well, thank you for coming on the show. I like to finish every episode with a book recommendation. Do you have a book to recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, I do. It's quite an old one now, but I think it's really relevant with what's going on in the world today. We think everything, is getting worse. But actually, if you read a book called Factfulness by Hans Rosling, it's a fantastic book that will change your mind about the world. It talks a lot about human behaviour over time as well. And I would really highly recommend that book. It's one of those ones that's just stuck with me. And
I've not heard of it. I will be on that as soon as you leave.
Honestly, it's fantastic. And I think if you're in business, knowing what's ahead is quite important, and planning for that.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. For those that want to find out more about yourself, more about social change, what's the best way to do that?
Well, our website, which is social-change.co.uk, and I'm also on LinkedIn, Kelly at Social Change.
Fantastic. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are listening to this podcast, so you're always the first to know when a new episode is released. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you on the next one.